Hey everybody, it's Wes from Fundamental Games here for another Fun in 5. Bringing to you today Dominion. This is the original deck builder, and I have had so many hours of fun with this with the family. You might even say days, but let's figure out why. First off, it's the origin of deck building. This game was basically a start off of an entire new mechanic of game called deck building. There was Magic the Gathering before, but that's more of a deck creation and planning. This is a build as you play kind of game, and that didn't really exist before this, to the best of my knowledge. And so what you do is you assemble your decks by buying a card after turn after turn, and you just keep shuffling and building, or sometimes decreasing your deck size, depending on what your cards do. And it's just really interesting to feel the gears and the flow of your deck kind of get better and sometimes worse as you play. And so just really cool that this is the origin of it all, and that it's come so far and it's still played so widely across the gamosphere, the world, and continues to grow with expansions. So that's the first thing. I love that it's the origin of deck building and it's still very, very strong, and it's got a passion of followers as well as new people discovering it. The second thing I like about this game is about card valuations by players. So I'll pan a couple of the cards across the board. I mean, it comes with a diverse amount of cards just in the original set. And what's neat is that different people will play the game in different ways. And so somebody might value Chapel as a crappy card. They might think, wow, I got to trash cards for my hand. That doesn't seem like something I'd want to do. I don't think this card's worth anything. Other players think this is the best card in the original set because it lets you slim down some of the cards that might otherwise clog up your deck, including cards like Estates. Some people might be scared to trash cards that are actually worth points at the end of the game. Other people may look forward to doing that so that they can cycle through their deck faster to get other kinds of points. Or there's other cards like a Council Room or attack cards. Some people may enjoy player versus player, other people may not. So it's really neat to see how the people think about the game and how people plan around the game, both originally when they first get into it, but also as they see what other people are drafting or building, how other people kind of react to that. Third thing is I like that it's a limited player versus player atmosphere. So it's for a couple of different reasons. First off, you can set up your kingdom to not have player versus player cards for some setup, or to minimize how many you have. And the second part is each player can decide how aggressive they want to be and potentially draft or purchase cards that are more defensive to protect them against that player versus player mentality. So many of these deck builder games are basically multiplayer solitaire. This one has parts of that, especially if there aren't player versus player cards, but you do still have to pay attention to what your other players are doing. If they're buying attack cards, do you have a way to prevent it? If they're buying curse cards or making you get curse cards, do you have a way to get those out of your deck so they don't clog up your draws or cause you end of game loss points? So a lot of evaluation goes into how you plan your game because of these player versus player cards, or getting curses in your deck, or just having to deal with the side effects of other players' actions. Or if decks run out early, that's another way that it's player versus player, because as soon as 3 kingdom sets run out, the game could end, or as soon as somebody buys up all of the provinces. Again, I'm not going to describe the whole game here, but there's a lot of player versus player parts in it without being an overly aggressive player versus player game, and I think that's why our family enjoys it so much. The fourth one is about the variable kingdom. So when you set up a game of Dominion, traditionally you just, out of the full set of cards, you only pick 10 that are going to create that game. And because there's such a variation of cards even in the original set, you could play 20 games and they could all be different because there's a couple of different cards rotated out. But then there could also be other variations with other sets. So I love the fact that each time you play, you could either use the randomizer cards, because every box comes with a set of randomizer cards, and you could do a random creation, or in the back of every rulebook there is a whole setup of examples that you could play either with the core set or with other sets, kind of intermingling one another. So really love the fact that these kingdoms can vary from game to game to game, and it always makes for you kind of have to relearn the game each time you play it and see how each card interacts with one another and if it's the right play to make or not. And of course that brings me to the fifth part, and that is about expansion. So some games kind of devolve over time with expansions, some get overly complex, like Magic the Gathering, as I mentioned earlier, extremely complex with all the expansions they introduced. The cool thing about Dominion is no matter how many of these expansions you play with, whether it's introducing potions and alchemy or wraths and such in Dark Ages or whatever the set is, it introduces it in such a way that you still have a very limited table presence. So I might have 2 cards from the base set, or 2 cards from this set, or 3 cards from this set, and I might introduce a couple of new mechanics, but in the end, I'm not introducing entirely new games all at once. And I love that the expansions allow you to experience Dominion in a different way, but still have the classic construction that the game began with. So if you've never played Dominion, the original deck builder, this is a fantastic way to learn about deck building or where deck building all started. And even years later, whether it's a decade later or however long it's been, it's still really cool to see that it's very present and still very fun. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.